Okay, today is Sunday. Today's Sunday. What I noticed about trading, and I remember somebody saying this about trading. So there's a company called S&B Capital. Okay, there's a company called S&B Capital. Now today's Sunday, and the market will be open in about 10 hours. About 12 hours. In about 12 hours, the market's going to open, in about 12 hours. So S&B Capital talked about this, right? S&B Capital talked about this particular scenario. S&B Capital talked about now the S&B Capital said this, okay? These are the founders of S&B Capital, okay? And the founders of S&B Capital talk about something called being an elite athlete, okay? So S&B Capital talked about being an elite athlete, okay? So what is the definition of an elite athlete, okay? So the definition of an elite athlete has two factors, okay? One of them, there's results, okay? There's results. The elite athlete, when placed in a competitive situation, will be able to compete, okay, at the highest level, okay? Highest level, that's the one side of it, okay? That's the external thing that occurs when somebody is an elite athlete, okay? Now, what makes a person an elite athlete? What makes a person an elite athlete? A person is an elite athlete because the person is physically and mentally capable of performing at a level of a extremely competitive, highly qualified state of being, okay? A person is in a state of very, very high state of being, mentally and physically, right? And it helps to have the Catholic God in me in order for me to fit into that category of being a highly competitive individual, right? So that means in order to be in that state of being, I have to have the skills and the physical attributes in order to compete in that position, right? And so in order to be in that state, for instance, the world class marathon runner can run the marathon in under 2 hours, okay? A world class, the best marathon runner can run the marathon in less than 2 hours, right? Less than 2 hours. Now, what allows a person to run a marathon in less than 2 hours? It takes great amount of mental solidification of finishing a race. That's one. And the smarts in order to navigate all the ins and outs of beginning to the end, the proper nutrition, the proper balance of water intake, the proper exercise regimen, and then the course from beginning to the end on how to finish the race based on which mile I am on. How do I pace when I'm running, right? All along understanding the connectivity between the mind and the body. Okay, so they have to go hand in hand to understand, to perfect a state of being in a highly competitive field. And so this SMB Capital, this founder, Mike Bellafiore, talked about, because he used to be a college baseball pitcher. And so he talked about incremental adjustments in order to get closer and closer and closer to get into that area where a perfection is achieved in mind and body in order to provide the best solution to be an elite baseball player. Okay? And he likened it, trading, to be very similar to a highly competitive sport. Okay? Just because of that fact. Now that being true, I realized something about myself, okay? Now, trading is essentially very cerebral. It's the mind. Okay? It's the mind. See, when somebody's doing like a baseball or something like that, your body is, I think, more so relied upon in order to, because you have to have the hand and eye coordination, and your brain has to calculate that, and then place the body in a very, very precise situation in order to hit the ball, right? So the body has to be precisely controlled between the body and the mind in order to hit a ball, okay? In trading, it's all the mind. It's all in the mind, right? The mind says, okay, when I see this, I click on it, and it's there. And the body essentially is just clicking. Right now, in the modern days of trading, I heard about, in the way back, trading used to be quite different, because the modern convenience and the computer and the internet connectivity has essentially bypassed the need to use a telephone to communicate with a broker, where the broker makes the buys and sales of securities. And therefore, what's happening nowadays is essentially it requires a computer, internet connectivity, which is essentially the outside of myself. And it only requires my body and my finger and my mind to make the proper trade, right? And so I'm climbing up and down this 4-story building. Now here, the hot air rises. So it's warmer. So when I get to the first floor, it's chilly. Okay? It's chilly because this building is being heated, but the heat is up here and the first floor is cold. Okay? Because that's where the cold air is. So then trading essentially is mostly the brain. The brain is processing it. It's the brain that's doing everything. It is detached. Primarily, the vehicle for performing the duties of a trader requires a finger to click on a mouse, visually recognize what's going on, sending it to the brain, and the brain processes it, where the brain controls the finger, and the security is either bought or sold. And the decision, the biggest equipment that's being used in me is the brain, not the body. Okay? Because you don't have to have 20/20 vision. You don't have to have the world-class fingers in order to perform the task of trading. Okay? You can swing trade. You can do intraday trading. It doesn't have to be scalping. It doesn't have to be high frequency trading. The trading can be done with a moderately available body, where the body eats well, sleeps well, and exercises well. Okay, those are the requirements in order to make the proper trade, as long as the mind is programmed properly. See, I heard that walking activates and nourishes certain part of the brain, okay? It nourishes certain part of the brain, connects the brain synapses and things like that, such that it maintains the density of the brain by walking, because it controls your whole body. I have to figure out how my feet and all that stuff is done to maintain and build this muscle memory. That's called the memory muscle. The memory muscle is maintained. So trading is very similar to that. The trading is very, very similar. I've noticed about now having 2 children, and when they were young, they were saying something, right? They would say something, and I noticed that now that I'm old, I can see why they said that, because their brain was being developed, making those connections. That's why when a 6-year-old, that's why when a 6-month-old is able to read the encyclopedia, I mean, that's like a genius kind of thing, because the mind has already been connected, right? And so what I've noticed that I was not aware of for the first 5 years of trading, the 5 years of trading is that, see, that's the first floor. The 4th floor is the perch, okay? It's the perch. And they call it like trading in the zone, right? People call it trading in the zone. Zone is an area where the mind and the body is in perfect union in order to perform the task of trading, okay? That's what the mind and body is in synchronization in order to perform trading in the best way possible. And that's why they call it the zone. Now, what could happen is this. That's why I have to protect my perch. I have to protect my perch. The perch that I sit on top of, this is the 4th floor. This is the 4th floor of this building. Okay? This is the perch. And what happens is, when I get detracted, when I get sidelined, when something happens, when I haven't gotten enough sleep, I fall down. I go down to the 1st floor, and then I have to maintain it. I have to keep myself sustained in a manner that allows me to remain on the perch. I have to place myself in the zone. Okay, I have to be in the zone. I have to be on the perch, which means I have to protect my perch. Protecting my perch means being able to maintain my brain, maintaining my state of emotion, controlling my emotion, controlling my body, allowing my body to be in symbiotic cooperation with my brain and my body together in order to maintain myself in the zone. Okay? If I maintain myself in the zone, it is an area where the mind and the body is prepared to perform the duties of trading. It is sitting on top of the perch. Okay? Perch is a fish. Okay? The name of a fish. It's not a sunfish, it's a perch. Okay? Perch. It's not a bass. Bass is slightly different. Perch sits somewhere in between the sunfish. So the perch is a little bit, the size-wise, in between a bass and a bass and a sunfish. Okay? But it's the perch. I have to maintain my perch. I have to protect my perch. Once I get into that zone, once I get into the perch, I have to protect myself. Okay? So I suppose it's like being a ruler. Okay? It's like being a ruler. Okay? It's like being a it's like climbing the top of the mountain. It's climbing the top of the mountain of power. Okay, once I achieve the power, once I get to the top, I'm at the top. Okay, I'm essentially at the top. Okay, that's the perch. Okay, and you have to be at the top in order to maintain yourself. It's like those people who are it's people who are the elites of trading. When you're the elites of trading, when you are the elite of the trading, you are essentially the 0.001% of the trading community, which means that you are at the top of the top of the top. Okay, you are at the top. Okay, once you are at the top, you are in the perch. You are in the zone. Okay, you are in the zone of the top of the top of the top. Okay, many things can happen. Okay, many things can happen. Okay, one of the things that could happen, I've noticed this about I noticed what's going on here. So this is a prime example of what's going on. Okay, so there's this president of the United States of America. Okay, the president of the United States of America. The president of the United States of America is the top of the top of the top. He is the most powerful person on earth. Currently, Russia and China are trying to vie for that position. But the president of the United States currently is the most powerful person on earth. Okay? Now, what he has going is that he is protecting his perch. He is in the zone. He is performing and administering at the office of the presidency. Okay? So that means I just saw an image of Omar with her turban off, and she's bald. Anyway, so essentially the so where was I? So essentially, trading is about protecting. Okay? Trading is about protecting, okay? And maintaining the perch. Okay? It's the perch. Maintaining and keeping the zone alive. It's alive. But as a normal person, a homeless normal person who works as a prep cook, okay? I have to maintain my mind and body and soul. The soul part, I am a Catholic, so that's taken care of forever, okay? Now the body, it just requires me to work out a little bit, maybe walk vigorously for about 30 minutes a day. And that allows my brain to maintain the gray matter in certain areas that allows me to perform the physical work that I need to do, okay? Otherwise, that part of the brain the part of the brain that is controlling the physical mobility will start to decline. And that's why when people are old, what I've noticed is that they sit around a lot. And when they sit around a lot, they lose their mobility. When they lose their mobility for a long time, the brain starts to decay. Okay, not to get rotten, but it just decays. The part of the brain that controls the physical mobility starts to dissolve itself, even though the brain is still maintaining itself, but the memory, just like if it's like atrophy. The brain is very similar to the muscle memory. When it's not in use, it starts to get smaller and smaller. Okay, and so what happens is the brain loses its mass, okay, in the activities that people do, which is essentially walking around, because the brain has to walk around in order to feed itself, in order to do certain things, in order to exercise and acquire things and communicate and then put new information into the brain. Okay, so trading requires a person trading requires a person to maintain itself, to maintain its it requires the brain to maintain the perch, okay, to protect the perch. So I, as a normal person, has to do that exercise. Okay, that's gonna maintain my physical self, and I have to do some, and I have to eat well, I have to sleep well. That's the physical part, but there is also the mental part. And so what happens is, for the body and mind, what happens is, when the external world outside of trading changes abruptly, it causes the disturbance in the brain, and it shifts the positioning of the zone, the trading perch. It shifts around. When it shifts around, just like a carton of eggs, some eggs will break, causing a momentary lapse, and so it has to be rebuilt again because it shifts. And so when I have a steady and consistent job duty, and when everything around me is consistent without traumatic changes in my life, then I'm able to maintain consistency in my mind and my body. When that happens, then the trading zone is maintained. It's easier to maintain. Sure, it's a leaky bucket, but it's easier to repair a very small thing instead of repairing something big. Okay, so let's say that I somehow I have to, instead of doing prep work, I have to jump into washing dishes. Now, washing dishes requires a lot of physical dexterity, and that's going to cause, after I do the work, I'm going to be tired. And when I'm tired, the mind will not function properly. Okay, it's going to take some time to get adjusted to. All right, and so if I work more hours, then I'm going to be physically and mentally weighed down, and therefore it's going to negatively impact my trading. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And that's why you don't have like marathon runners doing construction work. They practice what they're doing. They maintain their mind and body before the race starts, because they need to protect their perch. They need to protect their zone. Okay, they have to protect the zone. And so what happens is, it's like a pristine car, a car that just came out of the showroom. It came out right off the showroom. It had 1 mile on it, right? So it had 1 mile on it, and then all of a sudden it enters the street, and so a garbage truck runs over and just careens right into it, T-bones it, splits it in half. That's what happens when something comes along to knock me out of my trading zone, to knock me out of my perch. It happens quite a bit. Okay? And I've noticed something recently about when somebody comes over, and a person is very, very addictive personality, and when I converse, subtly that addictive personality jumps onto my subconscious, and I get way down on it. And when I'm trading, that programming is awake. And when that programming is awake, it interferes into my, so I'm dislodged from my perch, the ideal trading zone. Okay? So I have to protect my perch. I have to be conscious of what keeps me on the perch. When I get to a certain level, I know, like the president of the United States, you got all these people who's trying to knock him down. Okay, they're trying to pull him down. They're trying to dismantle what he's doing because they want to have more power. Okay? They don't want the most powerful person maintaining their power because they want to take it away from him, right? They want to take it away. They want to knock him off the zone. It's the presidency zone, okay? That's the zone, okay? He's on the presidency perch. And there are people around who's doing that. So that's the best way to maintain my perch is to maintain my trading self. I have to maintain my zone. I have to protect myself. It took me a very, very long time for me to get to place myself in that situation. And I have more to go. But I cannot be brought down, dragged down by physical and mental degradation by my external world that's attempting to drag me down, right? You got these people who God created everybody, and they live their life the way that they live, okay? And there's no right or wrong way of living. God created each of us this way, and it ends in a certain way. I was created this way, and this way, I go this way. But if somebody comes over and starts talking to me and then starts to dismantle what I'm doing because they don't understand me, right? Because they're not a trader. And so whatever they're trying to do is to inject themselves into my zone, is dragging me away from where I am, okay? I don't want to do that. I need to protect myself. I have to protect my perch. I have to. This is something, see, I didn't know about this. See, like when I first started, I was like drinking coffee. I was working like 6 nights a week, washing dishes, and I was living in a homeless shelter. I was dealing with this lunatic in a homeless shelter. This individual was mentally crazed, okay? But he was in the homeless shelter. And the way that the bunk system is, you have one room where you have a bunch of people sleeping in there. And this mentally crazed individual somehow learned that feces causes red eyes, pink eyes. And so what this crazy lunatic was doing is that when I fell asleep, he would sit on my face to expel gas. And so what could possibly happen is to physically kill me and then mentally kill me, right? By doing that, because he could suffocate me. Luckily for me, okay, I only lost one eye through that incident, right? And so this lunatic, that's how people can pull somebody out of the perch, because misery loves misery. People want to drag me down because they want to see satisfaction. There's a thing called, it's okay as long as it's not me. Okay? It's okay as long as it's not me, right? That's the mentality, the human frailty human frailty, okay? Many can't see that other people are doing well, and they would rather see the other person suffer and be suffering more than they are to make themselves feel better, right? And this lunatic was attempting to undermine my perch, my zone. Okay, it happens. So I could be working as a dishwasher 6 nights a week, and on top of that, I would have to do like prep work and all that stuff. I mean, it was crazy. I lost my knee, I lost my ankle. Okay, I lost my knee and I lost my ankle because I was running around. I was like, it was it was horrendous. I just don't, I have no idea how I did it, okay? But I sacrificed my knee and my ankle for the time I required in order for me to get to this position as a trader. I still have a long ways to go, but I need to protect my perch. I have to protect my zone, trading zone, okay? I have to protect that, okay? And I have to watch what I exude, be aware of what's going on with me mentally and physically in order to keep myself in that state of being so that I can move into the right direction, okay? I made great amount of sacrifices. I made an enormous amount of sacrifice. I made so much sacrifice to be in this perch, okay? I make just a little bit in order for me to have one buffet per month. And then I have to pay everything. I have to pay car insurance. I have to pay gas. I have to pay rent for this office, okay? All right? And I have to pay for milk. I have to pay for bread, okay? So all these things, little things, adds up. But I minimize myself. I sacrifice myself so that I'm using this computer. I'm using this monitor. I'm using this keyboard. I'm using these shoes that I have like dirt on it, okay? I'm wearing this Costco hoodie, okay, that I bought a long time ago, okay? I made so many sacrifices. My car tire is balding, okay? And there's so many things that I need to take care of, but I made these sacrifices in order for me to keep myself on this perch, okay? I have to protect my perch. I have to. I made so much sacrifice. I made an enormous amount of sacrifice. I made so much sacrifice in order to be, the amount of time I spent like studying and all that stuff, it is placing me in that perch. And so I have to protect myself. I have to protect myself because I know this is the only way out. If I take on a little more hours, this is going to cause me to be delayed and father time is creeping up, okay? I'm going to be 57 years old a little bit and I'm going to be done. I'm an old man. And so I have to get this thing done. So I have to protect my perch. And may God be aware of my intent, okay? I could go to church as a homeless person the rest of my life, but that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to do, okay? I've been to church as a homeless person. I don't want to do that. I want to make better myself. I want to be able to be self-sustainable so that I acquire the basic essentials of life so that I could relax a little bit. I could close my eyes for about 8 hours, okay? I don't have to like close my eyes at minus 10 degrees in the cold. I don't want to do that, okay? So I have to protect myself. So that's the reality. All these things have the possibility of knocking me off my perch, knocking me out of my zone, okay? So I have to protect myself. I have to be cautious of who I talk to. The interactions that I have impacts my brain. It programs it. Subconsciously and consciously, it programs my brain. Anytime I have an interaction with somebody else, it causes the brain to be programmed consciously and subconsciously. And whatever I do, whatever I eat, however I maintain myself nutritionally impacts the way that I maintain myself to perform at the peak level. So somebody who's in the elite, who's doing a sub 2-hour marathons, they have a regimen, a consistency that allows them to compete at that level. Protect the perch. Protect the trading zone. Protect the zone. Protect the perch. Okay? That is the name of the game. Protect the zone. People will understand. Okay? People will understand. Especially people who cares about you. They want the best for you. People who want the best for you, they will understand because they know that you're trying to do something. They know that you're trying to better yourself. Right now, you're a homeless man living in a car, sleeping in minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. After you sleep through that, your lung is frozen, and so your voice is like cracking. It's like you've endured, okay? But you have to maintain yourself. You have to maintain yourself, okay? Protect the perch.